right, can you guys hear me all right? Okay, great. All right. I was just actually working with the center director on stuff for next semester, so I'm running behind. That's excellent. Okay, we'll get started in 5 minutes. Right, let's get going. We'll see if Scott and Caroline, come on. All right, last lecture of the semester. Right, we are in week 11. So that's it. We're ending with our final P, our promotion. So we're going to talk about what we call integrated marketing communications. So IMC, right? So you might see it in its abbreviated form, IMC, Integrated Marketing Communications. So 4 components of our integrated marketing communications: advertising, PR, personal selling, and promotion, right? So even though our final P is promotion, we take a big look at how we communicate, hence the term integrated marketing communication. So what we are looking at is how do we get that message and start to form that relationship with the target market. So we're going to break these down into a lot of visuals tonight, right? So part of promotion, our integrated marketing communication, is a lot of visuals. So when we look at advertising, right? So advertising is paid, usually, non-personal communication, and it's a mass media. So the goal of advertising is to make it broad enough to be applicable to a large number of people, right? That is different than, say, the concept of personal selling. So personal selling is you're informing customers about products that it's with through another individual, right? So you might have experience with that at work, right? You've got maybe salespeople that come that have your account, and so they are in charge of coming by, building that relationship, and making sure that everything is going as expected with that particular product or service. PR, which I should really write out, PR is public relations. Public relations. So PR is under marketing. Typically, it may also have a cross function to the legal component, right? So there's a lot of times when PR kind of crosses both avenues, because a lot of what PR does is put out things like the annual report, or the goal of PR is to present an image to the general public. And so and that also kind of will fall under legal, to make sure that everything that's stated is under the correct guidelines, especially if you're a publicly traded company. And promotion are those activities, things like coupons, and promotion and sales promotion is meant to entice someone to get them to purchase. So we're going to go through and take a look at different types of advertising, different goals, and then we'll take a step back and I'll kind of ask you, okay, you can see this advertising or promotion, who do you think it's trying to reach? And ask you to kind of dissect and figure out who the target market is. So that's where we're going tonight. So a lot of visuals tonight. Our 4th P, we follow our life cycle, right? And typically, if I've got a product in the introductory stage, my type of promotion, my type of communication is going to be building awareness, right? So it's going to be a different type of communication, because I'm going to have to educate people about what we do, why we're a benefit, why we're providing value. I may have to offer a fair amount of pricing incentives to try to get them to try something that's new and unknown. Whereas if I'm in the growth cycle, right, people know what I have now. It's not introductory anymore. So how can I start to create a little bit more interest, where my promotion is going to change, my advertising is going to change. It's going to be less informative and probably a little bit more emotional. When I'm in the maturity stage, that's where we're going to be kind of think back to like Tide, right? What does Tide's advertising look like? It's going to talk about the product. It's going to probably be a lot of pricing and promotion because everyone knows what Tide is. So you may see a lot of comparative or competitive type advertising, which we'll look at. When we get into the decline, our communication is going to typically come back to just communicating with those brand loyals, and what that means depends on the product. There's no one way to do it. So advertising, non-personal communication through mass media. So that's what you see on TV, on radio, magazines. So even though like direct mail is in here, right? So there's direct mail, some of it's highly specialized and some of it is, right, like to occupant. Right? We've all seen that. And sometimes even though it may have our name, you know, it's still just a mass because technology allows us to address mail in a personal fashion, but it's really not personal. It's, you know, a computer program that's doing it. Outdoor, indoor displays, right? Your billboards out there, and displays inside, which we'll take a look at as well. The benefits to advertising is it's very flexible, right? You can do a lot with in terms of what you show because you're reaching such a mass audience. It tends to be very expensive initially, but I mean, you guys all heard, how much does a, oh, yeah, that's a great, yeah, anyone else have a, yeah, where it's, yeah, or two, I get a ton of mail for my son, who is 16. So I'm not sure what happened, what kind of list he got on, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure my 16-year-old son is not, you know, going to be able to choose a different cable carrier or, you know, or for selling the house, right? Or, you know, do you want to market your house? Yeah, that's a great point. So the one benefit in terms of advertising is we reach a lot of people, so really the cost per person is fairly low. Online especially, as online advertising grows, it's going to be, it's more and more economical. We've talked about that when we talked about social media. Okay, 3 types of advertising: institutional, advocacy, and product. And I find it's typically easier to look at it than for me to just kind of ramble off a bunch of definitions to you. So think of institutional advertising as just telling us about the company, about a product, about a service. So it's just kind of this overall goal of this is what we're about. Kind of come back to that mission, that vision component. So any idea of who this company is by this particular advertising? Any ideas? What company this developed this ad? Yeah, Ian. Yep, you're 100% right. Yeah, yes. And part of Panera's mission is that they run there with that, you know, with the clean movement. So when, you know, artificial dyes, that type of clean, right? They're not saying they're all organic or anything like that. They're just saying, you know what, we don't do preservatives, we don't do, you know, artificial dyes, that type of stuff. So they've labeled it clean, and that's been part of their persona, their overall image. And that's the type of advertising that they're using. So, you know, they're big into salads and soups, so that's what they're portraying. Yeah, yeah. Although they have white bread, they have all kinds of bread, right? If you've ever been to Panera. So institutional advocacy is really just like it sounds. That's where we're looking at trying to promote what we would consider socially beneficial behavior, right? So, for example, here's, you know, who do you think is, I know it's a little bit skewed in terms of this, but I mean, who would do an ad like this, right? kinds of companies would do an ad like this? Profit or not for profit, typically? Yeah, the Humane Society. Yeah, so typically, so this actually, yeah, down here, the Shelter Pet Project, but which, would be the same concept. So, yeah, it's giving a message about, adopting pets that are already out there, right? We may see advocacy with for-profit companies when we see like alcohol companies put out ads that promote responsible use of alcohol, right? Or responsible, I guess, as responsible as you can get with tobacco, right? So yeah, so those we might see, Miller doing, take a taxi kind of advocacy ad. So trying to get a responsible behavior towards not drinking and driving. Right. Do any of you guys remember, or can you think of any type of advocacy advertising that you've seen in the last couple of days? Either via a billboard or online? If you think of billboards, there's a lot of times billboards will come into advocacy advertising. At least here in Green Bay, I'm constantly seeing billboards for example, one of our shelters here is called Happily Ever After. And happily, they will do, drop-in Fridays. There'll be a big billboard, or, part of their, campaign, donation campaigns, 24 hours of, whatever it might be. So advocacy and social responsibility. Oh, great point, right? Awareness month. You're right. So diabetes awareness, mental health awareness. Yep. Heart health awareness, breast cancer awareness. All of those. Yes, that's a great point, Jade. Where during those campaigns, you will see it often. A lot of times, your advertisers will give reduced rates for advocacy type advertising. Which usually means it's not at prime time, but it's at reduced rates. Okay. And then what we see the most of, you're right, churches. Now, that is a great question, Angela, because it depends on what the message is that the church is doing. If the church is just talking about, okay, come and see us, and here's, our service times, then that would tend to be more of the institutional. It's talking about what you do and what you have. It's informational from an institutional side. If a church would be perhaps doing a campaign of like, kind of like the Salvation Army does, like coat drives or the backpack drives, things like that have a social responsibility flair to it, then it would be an advocacy type advertising. So yeah, so it depends on what you're saying. So, like I said, you can have like say Miller, who does product advertising, but then you can have Miller who does advocacy advertising, and you can have Miller who does institutional advertising if they're just talking about big picture what they do versus a specific product. So it's not like you have to be one or the other, it's just a matter of what it's saying, what it's communicating as to what type it is. Right, so think of institution as, here's our mission, here's a kind of a roundabout about the company. Advocacy, looking at social responsibilities, something that's helping, that's kind of community oriented. And then product is talking about the product or service. So their product advertising is what we see most of out there in the world right now. However, I'm starting to see more and more institutional, which is kind of interesting to me. So, um, product advertising, we have categories, right? So we have different types of product advertising. Pioneer, competitive, reminder, reinforcement, and comparative. Right now, it's not super important that you like memorize the types of advertising. They're broken down into categories because that helps us to design what we're looking for. So pioneer advertising is, I've got a new product, right? Or my service is in the introductory stage. So how am I going to work with, how am I going to design a communication that's going to tell, why we're a value, what we're about, right? So we break it down into categories because then it helps us to focus on how we're going to go about designing this particular promotion, this particular communication. So again, and you can be different, you can be more than one in one advertisement, right? I can have a reinforcement advertisement that's also, giving us some reminder verbiage as well, right? So it's not like you have to it can only be one of these 5. It can cross over. Yeah. So let's take a look. Okay, so when we're looking at pioneer advertising, does anyone, I know you guys are young, does anyone remember Tab soda? Can you still buy Tab? I don't think so. Can you still buy this type of soda anymore? Any of you guys even remember this soda? Yeah, so this was one of the first sugar-free sodas that was around, right? So it's a classic. So, but when it first came out, so not knowing anything about Tab, if you saw this advertisement, right, took a look at this, what would you think the attributes of this product are? I think yeah, it's healthier slimming, right? So we kind of have that design. So the concept is it's sugar-free. And this was one of the first sugar-free sodas that was out on the market, so it was brand new, right? There was no such thing as a sugar-free soda at the time that Tab initially came out. So part of their advertising is trying to promote visually, right? It says sugar-free, right? We can read that, but we see a gazillion, different advertisements a day. So they're putting that concept of, right, that healthier, that slimming visual in front of us, right? And do you think it works? I mean, things are a little different now, right? We've changed how we communicate, but you kind of step back, I don't know, 30 years ago. Actually, let me look it up. When was Tab introduced? When was Tab introduced? When did it come on the market? Anyone got a Tab open? Faster typer than I am? $1963. I was like so way off. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it was the first. Now, so I'm going to write that down. So now I know. Yeah, 1963. Yeah, so this was the precursor to Diet Coke. And there was a while where they had both, right? They had Tab, and then they came out with Diet Coke. So discontinued in 2020. And so actually it wasn't all that long ago that it was discontinued. But I think you're right. Was it Jade? I think I remember it going down and then there being a little resurgence, and then resurgence must not have been strong enough. Okay. This would be considered reminder advertising. Yes, yes, search. Okay, so first of all, what's the brand here? Because this is the advertisement, exactly as is. What brand? Recognize the brand? Yeah, it looks like Heinz. Right? It's pretty small, right? So, what do you think is the purpose of this ad? If you stop back and look at the visuals, what do you think they're trying to communicate to us? Yeah, food is bland without ketchup, right? So this is kind of an award-winning type ad, right? Just like in anything, advertising has like all of these awards for media, and this was an award-winning creativity ad, which is great, but really the goal is not to just win awards. It's meant to communicate to the target market. So yeah, so they're saying everything tastes bland, right? We've got that cardboard, that bland look, everything's white. We've got, now, if I asked you what would be some suggestions for improvement, even though it's award winning by people who do this and make buco bucks to do it, you as a typical consumer out there, how would this potentially appeal to you more? Or how could you think of maybe improving this? Or do you think it's just perfect as it is? Add more words? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we need to remember when we're putting in promotion, again, we're communicating, trying to communicate. Now, in this sense, this is called reminder advertising because everyone knows what Heinz ketchup is. Heinz doesn't have to tell us about ketchup. Everyone knows what it is. So it's considered a reminder, kind of putting it in front of the consumer again. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. I think this is a super tiny, at least it's red and it pops. But yeah, I think this needs to be bigger, um, right? To make it, because part of what we also need to do is, this was a magazine ad, and when you're looking through a magazine, would that have caught your eye? I mean, do we usually take a look and say, boy, that's kind of artistic in how it's done? Well, that's great to be artistic, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do with the consumer. It's really kind of a fail. So this is one of the times where I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever, in terms of your awards, because yeah, I don't think it's an A type grade. If you came to me with this, you're like, no, no, it's not appealing enough. It's not creating enough attention for people to even understand what the creativity is saying. So, yeah. This is an example of reinforcement. So just think again. So this is again another classical type ad, right? Our Campbell's soup, but our reinforcement is just that, saying, okay, you know this product, but perhaps you haven't had it for a while, or remember. So, do any of you guys remember the "Soup is Good Food" campaign from Campbell's? Does that resonate with any of you guys? Soup is good food. Somewhere at the back of your mind, like, oh, I do. Nada. Yeah. So yeah, this was okay, an older ad, and part of Campbell's "Soup is Good Food." So, what do you think about this ad? Any potential improvements? Yes, the article underneath is part of the ad. that's a great point, Jade, right? At the time, yeah, you're right, maybe people did kind of read a lot of, a magazine, whereas today we're different, right? Things change. So, yeah, and it's hard to read the words, whoever said something, because it's a clip from a, like, so yeah, there's kind of this nostalgic look. Um, but the whole point, again, example of reinforcement, a product we all know, but it's, again, just putting it into and providing kind of like reasons as to why we should take another look at soup. Example of comparative, what are our brands here? Yeah, Coke and Pepsi. So can you think of a comparative ad that you've seen recently? Ford versus Chevy, yeah, it's a big one. Um, yeah, how about fast food? Have fast food. Yes, yeah. So there's, well, Ian, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You brought out a good point that I actually didn't think about, like comparative advertising, but instead of actually looking to the target market, your comparative advertising for employees. Uh, yeah, so that reminded, yes, well, I mean, we could do a comparative promotion, but have it be part of our HR instead of our marketing department. That might be a creative way to look at that. Yeah, so comparative is just that. As we get more and more mature in terms of the competition, we tend to see this. I will say I'm not a huge fan of comparative product advertisement because, um, gosh, if I'm Pepsi, I'm doing this. I don't like putting Coke's logo out there. I don't like, um, you know, I don't like paying to put any type of brand awareness out there for Coke. So I'm not a huge fan of comparative. I think there's maybe time and place, but again, yeah, yeah, it's giving them attention. So I don't tend to like that, and I tend to think that comparative advertisement sometimes spurs competitive response that is, where sometimes we just don't want to go there. We don't need to stir the pot in terms of a highly competitive area. I don't. Yeah, agitates. Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of comparative. It's out there. It's used often, but I tend to like to spend my advertising money on more specifics. Um, but to each their own, and every market is different. Okay, so, comparative. So how do we determine how much we're going to spend on all this advertising? Because advertising is expensive. It's very expensive. So a couple of ways. We're not a ton of math that you have to do this. First way that is the most widely used is called percentage of sales. So if you have taken finance, right, we use percentage of sales as a way of doing what we call a pro forma, looking out to the next year and doing some projections. It's the same concept here. Percentage of sales is just like that. If I have $1 million in sales and I do 1%, I have a $10,000 budget, right? So it's just a percent of sales. Our next slide will show a little bit of math. The second way that we can do it is called objectives and tasks, where we say, okay, here's my plan, here's the objectives I want to achieve, and then here are the tasks and the cost. So that's very specific, and you may have some of this as, so once you got your percentage of sales approach, then you might kind of break it down. Say, okay, well, I've got this much I'm going to use. I got $10,000 I'm going to use out of my $1 million. So what do I want to accomplish with that? Right. So typically, the objectives and task is going to kind of fit within, here's what I want to do after you've determined how much, rather than that being the sole determinant. Competitive matching is just like it sounds. Whatever your competition is doing, you just do the same thing. Publicly traded companies will a lot of times disclose how much they're spending in advertising and marketing dollars. So that's where you would maybe get the competitive match, which again is fine, but you don't want to just throw money out there to just match your competitors if it's not being productive. So, and the arbitrary approach tends to be small business, right? The owner just kind of, figures out what they want to do. It's arbitrary and it's very personal to few players in the industry. So another example of percentage of approach, percentage of sales approach, right? So 10 million in sales, it's how you live your life. Arbitrary or percentage of sales, right? Or you're coming back to objective and task, right? And you're right, we can kind of take that and apply it to, so maybe, as you get into your life cycle concept, maybe we move from being arbitrary to being more objective and task oriented is the most stringent. So maybe we go from being arbitrary to percentage of sales to objective and task. Yeah, maybe we can apply that to how we, there might be kind of like we did that VALS approach, looking at the psychographic. Maybe we can work with that as to how we approach advertising as well. Okay. So again, if sales are 10 million, 1% advertising, you'd get a $100,000 budget. So if sales increased by 20%, what would be the new advertising budget? I want you guys to do a little bit of math. I want to make sure that you got this. Yeah, 120,000, right? It's just, yep, perfect. Right? It's that easy, right? It's that easy. So in real life, what you might do is take a look at what you did the year before you kind of sum up what's going on. Maybe if you've got a bunch of new products coming online, you're going to have to change things a little bit because new products typically mean that you're going to be spending a little bit more dollars, right? So, but yeah, there it is. How do we determine whether that $100,000 or that $120,000 in our advertising budget is effective? It's not easy. That's the best way I can tell you. It is not easy because, gosh, say I put out a really extensive advertising campaign in terms of media, right? And it costs a lot of money. Well, how do you determine whether it's been effective? Well, you can't just look at sales because sometimes things take a while, right? I mean, we might be doing informational advertising initially and it's costing a lot of money and maybe we don't have sales right away. Maybe we don't have sales that next quarter. Maybe we don't even have sales that next 6 months, right? There can be what we call lags. So we put out, and really it's kind of just that first initial feel. Well, then as I maybe do some reminder advertising, all of a sudden it starts to click and then boom, my sales increase significantly. Now, is that to say that what you did 6 months ago in terms of trying to get that introduction was not beneficial? Well, maybe and maybe not. It depends. If all of a sudden, and maybe it was not good advertising, but maybe it was good advertising and it just took the general market that long that many, maybe it took them 30 times to see something before it clicked, because it's so new or whatever it might be. So it's very difficult. We can't say 1 + 1 = 2 by looking at sales, by looking at, even clicks now, like, right, we talked about, okay, how many clicks, how many conversion rates, some of that's very good statistics, but how many times have you clicked on an ad and you didn't mean to, right? How many times have you guys done that, or all of a sudden you hover too long on something and you got through to the ad, right? A lot. And there's absolutely no benefit. Well, you know what? You click through. They just paid, probably Google, 3 cents for that click or whatever it might be, and there was no benefit to that. So how many millions of people do that? So that's some of the challenges that we get. It's often hard to do because because we're integrating, right? We are taking that integrated approach. We're not just doing advertising, we're also doing PR, we're also doing sales promotions. Well, what does all of that bring to the final result? It's not always straightforward. Oh, do you think that when we did our market research, did you have your phone near you that all of a sudden, with the discussion of, I have to be careful of that when I have my phone here in lecture, because all of a sudden, if I don't turn my phone off, I'll get things like that too, based on lecture, on marketing research, and I don't know, I must have gone off on a story, because all of a sudden I was getting stuff on Ford and Chevy, all of these auto trader things on Ford and Chevy. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So you're helping their conversion rates, right? Their click rate. One of the ways that we look at, are we having an effective overall promotion, is using what we call the AIDA model. And it's just an acronym for attention, interest, desire, and action. Right? So are we creating the attention? Are we attracting the attention of the people that we want, our target market, right? And we typically do attention through advertising and PR, are the main methods of using that. Interest, right? So how do we get them to look, we get them to click, and then now are we keeping their interest, right? So sometimes something might be interesting, you click on it, and within 2 seconds, absolutely no interest, or yes, I do have interest, right? So what happened in that 2 seconds to make you think, okay, how did it spark your interest, right? So sometimes we do that through samples, through demos. It can be through advertising, like another level of advertising, and sometimes we can do it through sales promotion. Okay, desire. We've got our interests, we've got our information, and the information clicks with our values, or what we're desiring, our wants, our desires. So again, that will a lot of times come from something that you can touch and see, promotional displays, types of demos, advertising again. And then action will be our sales promotion quite often. That's going to be our coupons, our buy one, get one free, getting something, being able to touch it, feel it. So here's an ad. Again, an ad that, what type of ad would this be again? Institutional, advocacy, or product? So first of all, what type of ad is this? Institutional, advocacy, or product? What do you think? Advocacy, right? Yes, it is looking out. So, and again, advocacy ad, right? So the message, cut a tree, kill a life. Okay. So when you just kind of take a look at the ad, what visual effects create attention. They kind of catch your eye. What things catch your eye? If they do at all. Does anything catch your eye? Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of, yeah, yeah. I mean, if they did, instead of red, if they did gray instead, would that have been as effective? Gray color? Yeah. No. Um, I asked you to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10 on how effective you think this is. In terms of, okay, I think I've resonated with the market with my message. Scale of 1 to 10. What do you Okay. You guys are like much more generous than I am. I can be like so nitpicky sometimes. Yeah, I'm kind of like, okay, would you stop and read this in? If you saw this, would you like, I mean, what do they mean? Cut a tree, kill the life. What does that even mean? How could you make it better? They came to you and said, okay, how could you make it better? How might you, how might you make it better? Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what this is. I mean, right? If it's sitting in a magazine, fine print, I'd be squinting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get what they're talking about, but I don't know what this is, and I don't know why it's pertinent. If it's not pertinent enough to let me be able to read it, then I'm kind of like, well, why are you wasting my time? That's just, yeah, what do you want? Well, you're right. What do you want me to do? Right? Um, so yeah, again, this was an award-winning ad as well. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, how many? Yeah, so I mean, it isn't. Now, what would happen in something like this is if it's followed up by, you know, again, when we're looking at integrated marketing, so maybe this is an ad, but then maybe there's a follow-up ad that also occurs that where the two kind of work together. So we're creating a more complete picture as well, or a follow-up, or some type of click-through that goes to maybe a 2 or 3 minute video would be an option, right? So it's not a standalone. So we're pulling it as part of. Okay, who do you think this ad is trying to target? Okay, who do you think this ad? What if I asked you where some dog owners, right? So now, can we just imagining, just kind of guessing back, right? We know that we don't. So, what's the brand here? The brand is LL Bean. So, just knowing the brand, right? What would you surmise might be some other segmentation variables besides dog owners, right? So you're spot on there. What just knowing who LL Bean appeals to, what might be some other? And again, we have a lot of segmentation variables, right? Age, income. Yeah, it's probably expensive. Yeah, it's not going to be, your $29.99 bag from Petco. Yeah. Yeah, so LL Bean, what are the type of people that shop at LL Bean? Typically like the outdoors. Um, they will tend to pay a higher price for a quality. Um, yeah, yeah. Mr. Bean and LL Bean are not anywhere close. LL Bean and like Land's End, if you're familiar with Land's End, are fairly close competitors, with LL Bean being a more outdoor type market. Yeah, it's not cheap. It's but to be honest, like Lululemon, it's yeah, yeah, it's a quality product. They're going to be built well because if you go outdoors, right? So a lot of times LL Bean, you're going to see like really good quality boots and quality jackets and clothes because it is a functional type um, product line, right? So yeah, definitely not going to be cheap. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I never thought of LL Bean selling dog beds, but we see a very big trend that has been occurring for a while, where dogs, right, pets are family, right? That's the trend. Pets are family. So the fact that they've gotten into a new product line, being dog beds, is not surprising. Well, how effective do you think this ad is? It's kind of cute, right? It's kind of got you have to think about it. You have to rate it. Yeah. Again, if you're not, even if you're not a dog owner, right? It doesn't need to appeal to you like personally only, but like from an analytical standpoint. Okay. Um, Take a second look at that. Did that ad create interest for you? Attention or interest when you first took a look at it? Did it create attention or interest? Did it catch your eye? Right, so initial goal, catch your eye. I think he's looking into the camera, into the backup camera, putting his paw up and looking at the backup camera. That's what I'm sort of, right? Okay, and you're right. So sometimes it's okay to have that first, it's okay because it's like, it makes you look again, doesn't it? It's like, oh, what is that dog doing? Oh, there's kind of a cute dog. Uh, what is there? Yeah, yeah. Um, how would you make it better? What it's really talking about is the backup camera and how the backup camera adds a safety feature, right? So that our little friends become more visible. Right? So that it's advertising actually a product for Ford. So this would be a product advertising looking at the backup camera and the fact that the backup camera can, yeah. So how would you improve this? What would be some suggestions that you would give to, okay, I get, now that we step back, okay, so the concept of a backup camera, right? And we're kind of wanting to portray the safety component of a backup camera, right? Although for the most part, I think if I'm backing up and my dog's there, my dog's going to move, because the attributes of a dog are, we're not going to stay here. But the concept of putting like a little child there would be too dramatic. It would be bad PR to do that. So they're kind of looking at the concept of safety, but doing it kind of forcing you to, okay, there's the dog, forcing you to then make the surmise that, okay, you know, what if my, you know, child is back there or something like that. How might they make this better? How can we go better? Yeah, again, sometimes the wording just needs to be a little larger, right? We've got white wording on gray, and I get it, the dog catches your eye, but kind of coming back to what Angela said, you know, okay, you know, are we going to sit and take a look at an ad and say, okay, I have no idea what this is talking about, when we move on? Right. So yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so maybe it is a two-part ad, you know, maybe, yeah, dashboard shots, or you're right, putting it on the dashboard instead. Yeah. So concept is good. Again, I don't. Okay, attention, interest, desire, action. This is an example of creating desire and action. Right? So we're using a sales promotion. That's the half price off happy hour. Right? So this is a sales promotion in our advertising. And the goal of this is to create desire and action. It creates desire by these visuals of saying, oh my gosh, that looks so good. And even though I didn't know that I wanted a Frappuccino, now I've seen it and I do. So we've got that visual of desire, and then we try to spur to action by providing that sales promotion. Okay, May 1st through May 10th, 3 to 5 o'clock happy hour, half price, I'm there. Mark it on my calendar, you know, put it in my phone. May 1st through the 9th, I'm at Starbucks for a half price Frappuccino. Right, so very clear, you know, straightforward type advertising. Now, what would typically we would, again, because we want that integrated marketing communication, right? This is an ad. What else might Starbucks do to try to highlight the fact that half price Frappuccinos May 1st through May 10th? In addition to this, what else would they do? Or could they do? What might be some other ideas? Again, integrating through. Okay, so we have May 1st to May 10th. So I've got one advertising. What other methods might I use to try to communicate this exact same message? What other methods? Right? So our integrated marketing communication is advertising, sales promotion, PR, and personal selling. So this is a print ad. What other type of advertising might I use that I could portray the same message? What other ways besides print advertising? Yes, I might, you know what, whoever is a rewards member, I am going to send an email, right? Or I'm going to do a push notification through the app. Or I could do like a billboard, to be honest. You could put up, you know, on the electronic billboards, actually pay for an electronic billboard at, you know, 3 o'clock every day, or 4 o'clock every day, depending on location, and, you know, pop that up for 15 seconds. All right, half price happy hour at Starbucks, right? So the goal of our integrated marketing communications is to support everything that's out there. So this is out there. I might provide support by using, again, push notifications, email notifications, um, and billboards that are out there as well. Pringles, right? We looked at Pringles as initially with our brand, right? We had the Pringles guy. So again, this is add to looking at a product type advertising. So again, looking at that integrated marketing communication, what else might you do? Right, so here's a print ad that's out there. What else could you do alongside this ad to try to spur someone to buy Pringles? To spur action. What might be some suggestions? I want you to think of the store. What could you do in store? Yeah, you can have, those are called point of purchase. POP displays are point of purchase displays. You see them in the store all the time, more so the grocery stores, but even into your, mass merchant, your Walmarts, your Targets, but for sure grocery stores tend to still do a lot of point of purchase displays. So yeah, you might come up with a Pringles point of purchase display that has similar type coloring, maybe even the same exact words or same exact visuals to go along with it. Yeah. Now, what you might also want to do, right? So if we think of sales promotion, right? So you've got this, maybe you've got a point of purchase display. What might you do in terms of the product price or product promotion, sales promotion? Yeah, do a buy one, get one. Do, maybe also slot the product in the flyer of the grocery store. So maybe run it on sale. Maybe do a digital coupon alongside it, right? Or yeah. So what it is, again, think of everything has to work together to try to achieve the end result, the end goal, the objective. So objective is to, say, listen, we changed our formula. We've got a lot more cheese. It tastes better, right? So that's out there, that visual. We've got a special display for it. It's running in the grocery circular. So that's there. And I'm going to provide an incentive, again, that incentive to purchase it through some type of discount, pricing discount. So again, all comes in together. I might even use social media. I might, come up with some funny type, I don't know, something that might work as well. So we've got digital out there, so again, integrated. Think of all of it coming together from an integration standpoint. Again, public relations PR, how many of you guys know what Festival Foods is? Okay, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of times, and I don't think any of you, none of you guys are out of state. You're all in Wisconsin. Sometimes I have students like all over the country, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right, so public relations, if you're a publicly traded company or not, might have public relations, but if you are a publicly traded company, again, when you have the annual reports, all of that comes through PR. Right? So anything that's being printed. Now, the goal of public relations is what kind of image am I presenting to the general public? That's why it's under marketing. Right? So there are PR is a specialty within the marketing realm. So news, press releases, articles, event sponsorships, right? What event is Festival Foods promoting right now? Anyone know? What event is Festival Foods promoting right now? The Turkey Trot, right? The Turkey Trot. So the Turkey Trot, Festival Foods has been doing for ages, and it's a walk, run. That festival in the cities that they're involved with, they sponsor, and it's always in conjunction with a couple of not-for-profits. So like in Green Bay here, they change it every year, but I don't know, a couple of years ago was like the YMCA and another not-for-profit. So basically they partner with them, and all of the proceeds that come from this hugely popular walk run on Thanksgiving Day goes to those not-for-profits. So it's under PR, it's an event sponsorship. And again, the goal is to, it's kind of an advocacy type component. It's a public, trying to do good, present this image of a hometown kind of community type grocery store. It's a positive type event, meaning, it's a walk run. There's typically not a lot of reason to have a negative component to it. So, have any of you guys ever done the Turkey Trot? Anyone here that's done the Turkey Trot? Or is going to do the Turkey Trot? Yeah, I used to do it with my kids, and it was a blast. I will tell you, there are some people who really get into it. Like it would, the last time I did it with my youngest son, it was, I think, 5 miles. They had to adjust it because of construction or something like that. So it wasn't 6 miles, it was 5 that year. And so my son and I did it. But like literally there's like people in full turkey costumes, plugging away. I don't know how they do it because it's like 50 pounds of costume. Yeah, there's just families out there. It's like, thousands and thousands of people come out and do this every year, annual event. Again, that is PR. It's PR marketing. That's who is in charge of the event and making sure that everything goes well, again, along with the legal team. So I would like you to open up a tab, please, and shoot, I need to copy that for you. Give me a second. So open up a tab, and I'm going to have you look at an old ad. It says 5 years, but it's actually, that's old. It's longer than that. All right, I think this should bring you to it. I double checked it the other night and it worked. So all right, there's the link. So open up a tab, and I want you to click on this link. I'm quite sure this is like 8 or 9 years old because Jordy hasn't been here for a while. This is an example of a PR type video. It was done by Dove, and it's like I think 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm going to let you take a look at this. So give me a thumbs up if you have a tab open, you have this cut and pasted, and then try it, make sure it works for you, and then give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. Okay, John, it works for you. Jade, you're good to go. And well, good to go. Okay, you guys all have it, you're all good. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to watch this, and then I'm going to give you a few extra minutes so that way you can kind of resonate on it. So at 7:10, right, at 7:10, I will come back. I'm going to turn off my audio. So go ahead and listen to the video, and then we'll talk about it. Okay? 7:10, I'll start talking. All right, give me a thumbs up if you're back. Excellent. All right. Okay, do you guys know who Jordy Nelson is? Is that familiar with who he is? Okay. He was a Green Bay Packer. Okay, so Jordy Nelson was a part of the Green Bay Packers for quite a long time. I don't remember the exact. He was a wide receiver, pretty good wide receiver. So an NFL, a elite NFL player for quite some time. Um, how many times did you see the brand Dove in the video? Do you remember? Or do you remember seeing the brand Dove at all? So video is a couple minutes long, right? So in this couple minute video, I use this video because I was actually there at the filming. So I can speak firsthand for it. So they shot at the school my kids go to. They shot the actual portion when he was in the classroom, and that is an entirely true event, right? We had a teacher who had her fourth child, and as soon as she delivered, she found out she had breast cancer stage 4. So she went to Mayo for cancer treatment. So she was gone out of town. And Jordy did step up and took over the class for the remainder of the school year. So it was months where he was the substitute teacher. So that was entirely true. And it was like a couple of years before this video. They had to kind of come back and recreate it because he had already done this. For example, I believe Jude now is in 7th grade, right? So, and he was a baby when this was born, when she found out. So he came in, he did it. They lived here during the off season. Did, just like any other normal parent would do. So he did that. So as part of the video, right, they came back and what do you think the purpose of the video is, first of all? I mean, why do you think Doug even showed this video? What's the message? What do you think the message is? You don't have to have the exact wording. What do you think it was trying to portray? Yeah. Yeah. Really, this is a series. Yeah, so it is. It's looking at their men's series. These are a series of videos that Doug did with other athletes. So they kind of use that recognizable component, doing things that are not athletic, right? I mean, was anything really, they were a celebrity that's being there. So it's recognizable to the general public where it's being used, but it's not necessarily showing them doing a lot of football, right? I mean, it was like he's a normal person. He's a dad, he's a husband, he's a brother, he's a son, right? So, but taking these people, celebrities per se, in this particular series of this year, it was a lot of athletes, right? They used someone from the Steelers, someone in baseball. So they did several of these series of videos, and the goal was kind of like, you're right, give back to your community, but guys, kind of step up, right? You need to, you're important, right? So you can do good. You can, it's okay it's beneficial if you do these things that aren't always, attributed to men. So this is an example of how Dove spent a tremendous amount of money on something that wasn't directly related to the product. The amount of work it took to do less than 20 seconds of actual video shoot in the school, it was over a 10-hour day, and there was over a dozen people there. So you had Jordy, his wife, his lawyer, Dove's lawyer, you had the production crew, you had representatives from the legals, there was like at least a dozen people there for 10 hours, and it ended up being 30 seconds of shoot time, 30 seconds of video time, right? $50,000 minimum for just the crew. Jordy, I don't know that he even got paid. I don't know if or he got, I don't know what the contract was for him, but it certainly, he didn't get paid a ton of money. But yeah, so just that. So, Dove spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for this particular campaign. It's an example of PR, and the goal is not just product related, okay? So the only reason I usually take that long of a time on a concept is because I can speak with authority as to how long it took and how much work and money is invested in some of these, something like that, just a small video, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to pull it together. Okay. Now, what if I'm Dove? What I want to make sure of is that my Jordy Nelson is really a good guy, because I don't want to spend all of that money and all of a sudden Jordy Nelson turns out to be, into, pornography or something like that, right? We've seen that where you've had spokespeople and all of a sudden we've got some negative connotations. So that's why, from the legal aspect, right, that's why there's lawyers there from all angles to make sure that everything's ethical, it's legal, we're in, all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted, to make sure. And if I, all of a sudden I put this video out and, my spokesperson, ends up going to jail for, beating his wife or something, there's a plan in place, a plan B to pull everything down and, work at why we didn't have a better vetting of our potential sponsor. All right, almost there. The rest of this isn't too much longer. Personal selling, right? We started the class. You guys said you've had experience with a personal salesperson that's in the company, and it's there. So personal selling and sales management is costly per person, but it can be extremely beneficial in terms of the data and the information that is received. For example, that was a large part of my sales career was in sales management. So I would be face-to-face with the clients, and that face-to-face contact was very expensive, a lot of travel expenses, time, resources spent. However, I knew everything about what was going on in the industry. I knew about competition. I knew about projects in the pipeline because I got to sit down with these people. We would have lunch. Sometimes, a lot of my clients were in Europe. So I'd go to Europe every quarter for 2 or 3 weeks and kind of make a loop. So they would see me at least 2 to 3 times a year because it depended on, I couldn't visit them all in that 3 weeks. So we kind of do a rotation. And I would have clients that invited me to their home. Like in Sweden, my contact there, I happened to be there on a Friday. So he's like, well, why don't you come to dinner with my family? And I did. I met his whole family. I went to dinner there. And then, went back to my hotel, and on Saturday, went to my next stop and hung out for the weekend till my next meeting on Monday, right? That type of personal connection is almost invaluable, because it was that personal, I mean, would you ever think of inviting a sales vendor into your home for supper on a Friday night, right? I mean, that type of stuff doesn't happen too often, but I had been there, I had built relationship with him over a period of years, and he trusted me. I was able to go to, I went to Turkey. Turkey was one of my potential clients, not actual clients, potential clients. So I would go there maybe once a year just to touch base. And I happened to go to Turkey during Ramadan. And again, it was like kind of on a Friday. I like to go to Turkey on a Friday because it was really cheap to go there. And I loved to do the tours when I was there, when I was in Istanbul. So it was a very interesting place to be for the weekend. So I kind of make that my Friday stop, hang out in Istanbul for the weekend and do the tourist tours thing or whatever. So he invited me to Ramadan, which was this huge event. Like it was like hundreds of people that came to this. It was like a wedding hall almost, and had Ramadan dinner with them. And I didn't, I don't know much about the culture, but I sure did after hanging out with them for a while and understanding. So again, it's that personal connection. Highly expensive, right? But yeah, very high cost per contact, but it can be highly effective in business to business because there's no way I would have gotten that type of relationship, that type of information, that type of connection on a Zoom call. This wouldn't happen. That being said, we have Zoom and we have technology changes that are shifting, our personal selling and sales management in business to business type marketing, right? We don't need as many salespeople because we can automate, right? We can have Zoom calls. We can, a lot of times the people factor is able to be technologied out. So yeah, we've got shifts that are changing that we just need to be aware of. All right, sales promotion. Even though advertising is expensive, the largest dollar amount spent in marketing is here. And that's because, when you're putting out coupons or sales pricing, that's an expense. Or if you're not classifying it as an expense, it is a reduction in sales because you're giving a pricing discount. How many of these have you seen as a consumer this week? How many of these? Of those 8, how many have you seen this week or experienced? John's got 4. Okay, so Quick Trip has sometimes digital coupons. Quick Trip has been doing their sample chicken tenders this week. I don't know if it's company-wide, but here in Green Bay. I went into Quick Trip yesterday before coming into school to teach, and they had chicken tender samples. In fact, they have a loyalty code. So you're right, actually, almost all of them, you could take that for Quick Trip. Yeah. Which of these do you think is the least amount used now? Is declining in use? What do you think of these? Which is declining in use? The rebate? Oh, interesting. I actually thought number 7. I don't have any hard statistics. But I'm like, contests and sweepstakes, I don't know. Have you guys seen that anymore? But you're right, Quick Trip has contests and sweepstakes. They have contests all the time. Yeah. Right. Does anyone else do rebates? Anyone else seen a rebate besides Menards? Alcohol rebates. Wine rebates are still kind of a big thing. At least for me, they are. Yeah, you know what? I don't, outside of alcohol, I don't know that I see it. Oh, tire rebates. That's a good example. You're right, tire rebates. And sometimes instead of a rebate, you'll see car incentives. Yeah, you're right. Tires still do it. And so it's interesting in certain industries. But yeah, that's a great point. Rebates are yeah, one of the potentials with rebates, and that's why a lot of the alcohol companies do it. It allows you to collect data, um, consumer data. Yeah. So point of purchase, those are in the stores, right? Okay. Yeah. So here's, we've got the online coupon thing. So paper coupons. Yeah, I used to know the statistic for that, and I do not recall it at the top of my head. But part of the data for using like a rebate is, okay, people will buy it, but then of the people that buy it, X% never turn in the rebate. So you spur the purchase, but you don't have to pay the rebate. And I can't remember what the percentage was, but it was a significant enough percentage. We don't see paper coupons too often anymore. They're still out there. Although they're generated a little bit differently now. I mean, if you were to get a paper coupon, how do you get it? How do you guys get paper coupons? Any of you get them sent to your home from a grocery store that you're part of their loyalty program? Yeah, I get mine. Yep, and then sometimes, yeah, in the store, when you buy it, they'll generate a coupon as well. Yeah, I get it in the mail from the, and then you're right, online coupons are a big thing. Digital coupons are still a big. So our grocery stores that still use coupons, it's just shifted from the majority being paper. Very interesting things. Yeah, so almost all, we're seeing that shift to going almost solely digital. I get paper coupons from ours, but they're kind of specialty. So I'll go to Pick and Save, which is a Kroger store. So they'll send me coupons every month. And it's kind of tailored to what I buy. So it's not just a general pack of coupons. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I buy this often, so therefore they've given me a coupon, or they'll give me a free one. Sometimes, coupon for free because it's something I buy often. So, yeah, same thing from Meijer. Yep. So their technology has allowed them to kind of take a look at your purchasing habits and then, send that to you. So again, the goal is to, okay, I've reminded, hey, come to Meijer. You're part of our loyalty program there. I've connected with you by incentivizing those things that you already buy. So it's not only a sales promotion, but it's also kind of that, okay, come on into the store to use these in a heavily market. I'm sure you guys have had this before where sometimes you left something in your cart and then all of a sudden you get an email saying, hey, this is in your cart yet. Do you want to still buy this? Or you leave and then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, like here. Well, let's give you an extra % off. Goal here, trying to create attention, interest, desire, action. What's the goal for this here? Of AIDA, which one is this trying to do? Yeah, it's spur to action, right? We want you to, that extra incentive, that extra sales promotion to get you to actually purchase. Okay. Loyalty programs, big thing, right? I asked in yesterday's class, we were doing a discussion, and one of the suggestions was to start a loyalty program. So I'm like, okay, how many of you, how many things do you have that you are part of their loyalty program? Like count them out. And, you know, the vast majority are like too many, I'm part of too many. Now this is older data, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. The most popular restaurant loyalty apps here, which I thought was kind of interesting. Starbucks is big. They've been doing it. They were one of the first forerunners, as was McDonald's, in the app market component. But yeah, we can see trends. You know, loyalty programs are becoming bigger and bigger. But we have to be careful that consumers aren't being overly, yeah. So why do you think they have you download the app? What do you think the goal is in downloading the app? And the fact that you can pay, right? It's specific. You pay through the app, and with the app, they know where you are, right? So when you get there and you get the code or wherever you're at, they got that seamless component where if you just do it online, they can't track when you're coming through. Yeah, you're tracking. What do you think is the trend on point of purchase displays? Up or down? And I don't know the answer. I have my guess, but yeah. I don't think there's going to be more of them, but I am not seeing any decline in the grocery stores. So the grocery store has stayed kind of stable. Now it will be interesting because again, COVID has kind of shifted things in terms of retail ordering, right? We're seeing a much larger rise in the concept of coming up and, you know, the online ordering and pickup of your groceries and things from Target or Walmart, right? So that's, COVID kind of gave that it was already there. COVID gave it a big boost, kind of shot it ahead 10 years in terms of use and how quickly people adapted to the technology. So it kind of fast forwarded that concept about a decade, right? So people that would have never ordered it before or never used that technology before, with COVID, were kind of forced to or incentivized to. So it took that big leap from early adopters into growth to maturity in a really fast time period. So it'll be interesting to see, how things really lay out with things like point of purchase in the stores, if it's going to continue. Like I said, it's been stable even through COVID, so I'm not seeing any decline yet. But it'll kind of yet to be determined when we look at store traffic, what's going on there. In the business markets, how we might take and do rebates, right? Yeah, that kind of thing. We do trade allowances instead. So the same concept applies business to business as business to consumer in terms of what we want to accomplish. We just do it in a slightly different way, right? We don't do coupons, we don't do, but we will do allowances if, you know, to try to gear up towards specific promotions. We might try to incentivize free merchandise, right? So maybe what it is if I'm selling wine, if I get 10 cases, your 11th one is free, right? So we can incentivize that way. We might look at training, right? If I'm Ford, I might go in and help to train some of the car salespeople on some of the new functions that are coming out with Ford. I just saw on a billboard today with Ford, and it was Ford Repair coming to you. So I'm like, what does that mean? It was very basic, Ford Repair coming to you. And it showed like a kind of this big box fan. I'm like, well, is that for changing oil coming to you? Is it, what are they doing? So I have no idea what that means, but they used a billboard to try to put that. Typically, billboards are not a really great example of a new product or service because you can't explain it very well. But the goal might have been just to create interest than to ask or research it more. Right? So that being said, we might have training assistants. Ford might train, on some new features. So coming in and helping that way. Cooperative advertising. Help was where you come together. So we used to do a lot of co-op advertising when I worked in distribution, meaning we would get some fees from the manufacturer to be the person to help explain and to go with all of these promotions or products with the business person. So we were the in-between. We did a lot of co-op advertising in that sense. So here's where we are going. We're not going to do a group activity because I feel like I've been talking forever, and it's 7:36. Here's what's going on. You have homework for this week. So for the company you chose, find some type of promotion, whether it's an advertisement, PR, sales promotion, whatever it is, find something, critique it, and then submit it in. So that's your homework for this week. The final exam is available. Right, so I just released the final exam. It's in week 12 content area. And it is due when? When is the final exam due? It is not a Wednesday, I can tell you that. The 20th, November 20th. The 20th is the end of the semester. It's due tomorrow. I would love it if you would get the final exam done tomorrow because I could get a head start on grading because it takes forever. Yeah, the end of the semester is November 20th, and so therefore that's when our final exam is due. But the good news is this is our last lecture. So I am not lecturing next Thursday, so you are therefore have time to complete the exam prior to end of business, November 20th, right? So homework due by next Wednesday, final exam due by the 20th, but everything's available. You have everything open to you. I did not do an extra credit for Liquid Death, but I did put a question in there, but it is not extra credit. So it's 4 credit exam for question for Liquid Death. So you guys are doing great. I'm like, you guys don't need an extra credit. You're doing great. All right, do you guys have any questions? Any questions on expectations? Yeah. Okay. And you know what? Okay, maybe I'll throw out a little pop quiz out there because I just saw an ad for Liquid Death for $1.25 a can. I just have to remember where I saw it now. It was, yeah, I think it was 4 for $5, individual cans, but you didn't have to go buy 4. The pricing wasn't, yeah, it was $1.25. It wasn't Ross's, it was in a grocery store. So just, I cannot remember which one because I, buy a gazillion groceries a day. So I'll have to look. But yeah, it was at a very reasonable price. So I'll see if I can find it and do a pop-up and see what you do. So sorry, no extra 300 points. But I appreciate you reminding me that I did want to carry through on Liquid Death. All right, if you don't have any questions, you guys are free to go. That's it. If you could, though, I would super appreciate it if you fill out the course evaluation. I know it sounds like a hassle, but really the main campus just hounds us. Like I can really make a whole lot of difference if you guys don't do it. And it does actually come back and they kind of yell at us a little bit. So if you could take a couple of minutes to just fill out the course evaluation, I would highly appreciate it. Thanks, Heather. I enjoyed you guys too. It was a fun class. Yeah, thanks for everything, because you guys were a great group. Truly, truly a pleasure. If you have questions on the final exam, though, please contact me. Right? Don't spend a lot of time. Just contact me and ask for clarification. Right? Well done. Good night. Oh, right. Have a great rest of the have a great long break. Right? You have about 2 months almost before we get. Yeah, in fact, it is. It's 2 months. You have a 2-month break for spring semester. Online students, keyword 1 is liquid, keyword 2 is death. So liquid death are your keywords.
I have a question because I came in late on
Yes.
like what you would like me to make up or
Okay,
how.
so what, great, I don't have to send you an email then. So you were 30 minutes late, right? I got you at
Yes.
6:28. So go on in and do 2 posts in the discussion board. And you can
Okay.
do them right now. Yeah, you can, the discussion board's open now. You can go in and do that. And then, so I'll mark you as 16 out of 24 right now when I go in. But then at the end of the week, when I see those 2 posts, I'll pop you to the 24 out of 24.
Okay. Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.